Hello, everyone. So nice to welcome you today to our webinar and workshop with Malt and Wagon. I see that we have around 6 people coming in, so maybe we'll wait for another minute to give some more people the chance to log in. Like I said, welcome today. My name is Ariana. I'm working for Malt as community developer or community builder. And I'm trying to organize some webinars, some live events, some cool content for you guys. So that's why we're sitting here today. Like I said, I'm really happy to welcome also Felix, who's gonna have a presentation and also who's gonna do a little workshop with you and with me as well today. So welcome, Felix. I think we're gonna learn a lot today. I'm really excited. And if you guys want to let us know where you're from, where you're sitting right now, you can also directly type in the chat that you see down here. I don't know if some of you already work with Livestorm. It's pretty easy. Also, whenever you have questions during the workshop or during the webinar, you're very welcome to just type everything in, and then maybe I'll let Felix know if there's anything that we should directly talk about. I see someone is typing already. So yeah, just let us know where you're sitting right now today with that nice weather. We'd be happy to hear from you guys. Also, in terms of little information for you, actually this webinar will be recorded. And I can give all of you guys the opportunity to also have your camera on and to be able to speak, to be able to interact with Felix, as we're a little group today. Maybe this is nice after my little update and presentation about Malt, if you guys want. Ismail here from Oberhausen. Hi, Ismail. Super nice that you're here today. And Leonie from Stuttgart, from the south. That's great. So I'm sitting in Aachen right now, in the very west of Germany. Felix said he's sitting in a little small village town in Rhineland-Pfalz, near the Mosel. So we're from all over Germany here today. And I see we have 8 people, so it's 5:03, so then maybe let's just start. So like I said, welcome to everyone who just came here right now. My name, like I said before, is Ariana. I'm community builder or community developer for Malt since December, which means that, yeah, like I said, I'm organizing events for you live and virtually, like today. And basically, this is what we're going to do today. I want to keep it short, so I'm just going to give you a few quick updates about Malt. I guess some of you know Malt, and maybe some of you don't. After this, you will for sure know what it is and what has been happening these past few months. Then we will have a workshop with Wagon, and we will learn how to scrape large data from the web. And then, of course, if you still have big questions, longer questions, we can for sure do that at the end. But like I said, just type everything into the chat, and otherwise we can also directly take care of the questions. So Malt, what is Malt? Malt is one of the biggest freelancer portals in Europe. We have around 350,000 freelancers these days. We have also about 50,000 clients already. So basically, Malt's job is to find you, for you, the freelancer, the perfect job, and for the client or the company, the perfect freelancer. Also, Malt has just received around 112 million euros in funding. So we're really growing, especially in Germany. And in Germany, we're here since 2019. So it's been 8 years already. And we also started in France, actually. Malt is a French company. We also have an office and a website in Spain. And since last year as well in Belgium, the Netherlands, and UK is coming right now. So yeah, Malt is growing also with some investors and with you guys as we have more and more freelancers joining. And this is just to give you a quick overview over some new and old and different clients that we have on Malt that you can work for. So for example, we have bigger corporates like WPP or Deloitte, but we also have some smaller companies, some family businesses. So yeah, basically whatever you're searching for, you will find it normally on Malt. So that's everything from me, because I don't want to keep you guys from the tech content that we're gonna that we're going to study today. So maybe let's get started. And I will hand over to Felix. And also right now, I will quickly give you guys the opportunity to turn on your webcam if you guys want. Like I said, this is being recorded, so you don't have to. You will normally now receive an invitation, and you can turn it on or not. It's really completely up to you. Maybe you can also turn it on later if we have the workshop and you directly want to talk or ask a question. That's totally fine. So yeah, welcome Felix and welcome Le Wagon today.
Thank you, Ariana. Welcome everyone. Yeah, I'm Felix. I did the data science bootcamp at Le Wagon last year. And since then, I've been working as teaching assistant and teacher for Le Wagon. And recently, I also started working in the HR and finance department as well. Let me quickly share my screen. One sec. So let's see if this is the correct one. Nope. One sec. Oh, damn. Okay, I will just move it to. Sorry, one sec.
That's totally fine, Jonas. I see that you say you're sitting there with a baby, even though, of course, we might want to see your cute little baby, but that's totally fine. You can also not put your camera on for sure. But if you guys have questions, you can directly talk as well if you want.
Cool. All right. Yeah, so it's the first time for me working with this tool. So please excuse this. Now we got it running. If you have any questions along the way, yeah, as said, you can just ask them in the chat or unmute yourself. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment. Just ask me. So today the topic is web scraping. What is web scraping? One sec. So yeah, welcome everyone. What's web scraping? Web scraping is getting structured data from the web. So we will be looking at a website and we will be seeing how we can get specific information from that website. And we will do it on one website, but obviously this is transferable to other websites as well. So the first thing that we could do is we could just copy paste, right? We could go to this website and for example, if we want the titles, we could take the title, copy paste it to an Excel sheet, do the same for the price if you want the price. And it's obviously one possibility of doing it. It's very prone for mistakes and obviously takes a very long time. So maybe there's a better way of doing it. And yeah, we can just have our computer do the work, right? So we don't have to do it ourselves. We can just tell the computer what we want it to do and get the results. So this is what this what this workshop will be about. So we have the HTML of the website here. Websites are written in HTML, that's the language, and we will see how we can transform it into data that we can actually use. Yeah. So what does actually happen when we visit a website? For example, if I type in Wagon here and I hit enter, I enter a URL, right? And I get something back. And this can be illustrated in this way. So I am using Google Chrome, which could also be a different browser on my computer, which sends a request with the URL to a server. And the server, as an answer, if everything goes well, will send me an HTML document. And again, HTML is the language of websites. The same can be done by a program, right? So we can use Python. This is the Python symbol. This is the programming language that we will be using today. to tell our computer what it is that we want and to do it for us, which obviously is nicer than do it ourselves. So today we will be using modern browsers. This is so later after the presentation, you will be given like some challenges that you can work on. I see there's something in the chat. Oh yeah, cool. Okay. And please don't use Microsoft Edge or something like that. Chrome and Firefox are really good and developer friendly. Safari is fine as well. So if you're using something else, it's probably better if you just download and use one of these. We will be using Python. That's the coding language we will be using. And we will be using Jupyter notebooks. And Jupyter notebooks are basically a form that we can, in our browser, use code and text so we can document it. So they're used a lot in science, for example, because they're very good for documentation and trying things out. We will also be using Beautiful Soup. Beautiful Soup is a Python library for web scraping. If you remember, web scraping is what we're doing today. And a library is basically just a collection of code that some people at some point wrote and decided to make publicly accessible for everyone else. Yeah, so we don't have to do everything ourselves from scratch, which is really useful. All right. So our target today is this website, Books to Scrape. It was specifically built for scraping. It doesn't require any authentication. So we don't need a password. We don't need a security token, nothing like that. There's no dynamic content. So there's no pop-up menus or things like these, who can make scraping a bit more difficult, and no lawsuits. So scraping is generally not illegal. But it moves kind of in a gray zone law-wise. In the US, there was recently like a verdict by the Supreme Court. I think LinkedIn was suing some people over scraping their website, but the Supreme Court ruled that as this was information that's publicly accessible to anyone who uses a browser, it's all right. But once you scrape a website, for example, that you pay to have access to, or even if you need an account for the website, yeah, you might have to inform yourself if everything that you're doing is all right with the law. Let's have a look at this website, just like a brief overlook, right? Because this is our target. This is what we want to be working with. So it's always good to get an overview. Yeah, so, and at any point, if it's not zoomed in enough, please just let me know, and I can zoom in a bit more. Yeah, I want everyone to be able to see well. So yeah, this is a website with books on it. Here we can see titles, prices, some status, an image for each book, and so on. And I can already tell you that what we are trying to do is to get the title and the price of each book and store them in our program. So this will be the task that we will be doing later on. All right. So now we have an overview of what we are of what we will be doing. So let's have a look at HTML. So we will be using Python, but we will be interpreting HTML, and we will be getting the information that we want from the HTML. So we need to understand how it works, at least to some degree, right? We don't need to understand everything about it, because we don't need to create something with HTML, but we need to be able to understand it. So this is the basic syntax of HTML. We have an opening tag, the content, and the closing tag. And one element always goes from opening tag to closing tag, and whatever's in between will be what's displayed on the website. So for this element, content would be displayed on the website. Elements can have attribute value pairs, so they're in the opening tag. And yeah, this is the way it's written. We have attribute equals, and then in these quotation marks, whatever the value for it is. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. Yeah. Does anyone have an idea what this last element might be? All right. I see something popping up in the chat. Yeah, exactly. It's a link, and links in HTML are opened by the opening tag A. And then we have the href, which basically is the information where the link will lead us to. And then we have le wagon here, which will be the text of the link that is actually displayed. All right. HTML is structured in a certain way. We will see soon enough that not necessarily, but this is how it should at least be. Yeah, David, I can't see you. I think the camera is off. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe Ariana can have a look. Yeah, so HTML is always structured this way. We have an opening tag and end tag HTML. So from here to here, the whole HTML document goes. And each HTML document consists of a head part and a body part. And in the head part, we can find metadata. So this is more for robots or machines. For example, what we have in the metadata is this. Yeah, so you see in the tabs, we have some information. This would be the title, for example, for the books to scrape a website. And this is part of the metadata, or maybe the date the website was created, things like these. And in the body part, we have everything that we see. So everything that we see on a website, when we use it in our browser, is part of the body part. And this is the more interesting part for us when we want to scrape the website, because this is where the information we're looking for is. Yeah, this is an example of a head part. Here we would have the title that we already talked about. And here, for example, there's the specification that UTF-8 characters are used. What's that? So maybe you know that computers work with binary, so ones and zeros. And then there's something that interprets this ones and zeros. And UTF-8 is basically kind of an instruction of how the ones and zeros should be interpreted. Yeah? And this would be part like of the head. And then these things that follow will be part of the body. We have headers, for example, from H1 to H5, H1 being the biggest header, and H5 being the smallest. Here it says main title, subtitle, section title, and so on. But it's basically just how boldly something is printed. Yeah. We have paragraphs. They're also very common. And a paragraph is just a piece of text. Again, it opens with an opening tag of P and ends with P. Yeah. We have divisions. Divisions are divisions. For example, if you want to group some elements, in this case, two different paragraphs, and want them to be one coherent element, you can put them in a division. Yeah, and they will appear together, and they will be, yeah, they have they're part of one bigger element. Yeah, in this case, the strong could look like this is a new element, but strong is actually just used to bold print whatever is in between. So even though it looks exactly like the P element or any other element with the open and close tag, this is not an element itself. All right, we have unordered lists. So an unordered list would be a bullet point list. So in this case, what this would print when our browser interprets it, it would be a bullet list of bread, milk, and butter. Similarly, we have ordered list. So this is UL, but we also have OL for ordered list. And in this case, this would be 1, 2, 3, right? So it would be 1 France, 2 Uruguay, and so on. All right, so I've told you that elements start with an opening tag and a closing tag. As for a lot of things, there's exceptions. Images, for example, they're just one tag that starts with img. Here we have the source, so where the picture or the image can be found. And we have alt. Alt is what, a description of the image. So for example, I'm sure you've encountered the situation that you're at a website and there's supposed to be an image, but it's not loading. Like you have this broken image sign, and there's a text. This would be the text. And another use of this is for visually impaired people. So there's programs for them that read out websites to them, and instead of seeing the image, they get some description from here to have an idea what the image is about. All right, elements in the wide. Let's have a look at this. So we will be using 2 metaphors, I think, now to illustrate how HTML is structured. I think it's very useful because we can use things that we know to understand things that we probably don't know yet. Yeah, so HTML can be thought of as structured like a flock of geese, for example. So here we have a little example. So we have an article, and then we have the div, and so on. And you can see that there. By the way, can everyone see? Like, is it big enough for everyone to see? Otherwise, please, yeah, just send a message. And
I try to zoom in a little bit. I don't know if maybe otherwise people can send me a little message in the chat. But if you zoom in on the screen, it works normally.
Okay. Yeah, I think when I zoom in, it actually gets smaller in the present. This way.
Actually, you also can send people the link, right, Felix, where you can find this online, because this is all available online, right?
Yes, but I think this will just be in the end, like with the login and stuff, because people have to fill out like 2-3 questions still.
Okay, I see.
Yeah,
okay.
But in the end, everything will be available. Also, will be available forever, or at least as long as our Learn page will exist. Yeah, so you will have all the time to go through it again. Yeah, but the indentations here, they basically mean that this division is part of the article, and this link is part of that division. Yeah, let me see. Yeah, cool. Yeah, and so on. So the indentation lets us know how the elements are related to each other. If, for example, here with the I elements, they're all on the same level, right? So they're not part of each other, but they're existing in parallel, let's say. We will have a look at a different way of looking at HTML. You can also imagine it as kind of a tree structure, not like the tree we're seeing here, but more like a reverse version of it. And HTML, so because HTML covers everything, can be thought of as the root. And then we have the body and head part, as I showed before. And these again have branches, let's say, or leaves below them that can again have some, and so on. And to describe the relation of the elements, we actually use another metaphor. So we can say the body is a children element to the HTML, and the HTML is a parent element to the body, or ancestor descendant. I prefer children and parent. It's more intuitive for me. The same way, these 3 elements are grandchildren to HTML, and each of those are siblings to each other. This is just a way of describing the relation. And to understand the relation is actually really important for scraping, as we will see soon. All right, let me first zoom back again. Yeah, so now that we've talked a bit about HTML, let's actually have a look at the HTML we will be working with. Let's just make this big. So this is the website, right? And this works on any website whatsoever. You can right-click and go to inspect. Maybe if you're using Windows or in a different language, it might be slightly different, but generally it's at the end of the right-click menu, and it's something with inspect. Okay, let's make this a little bigger. So here, let's actually try to zoom. Yeah, cool. So I hope this is big enough. We can see we have the HTML tags, right? We have the head tag and the body tag. And we can actually, if we click on these arrows, we can have a look at what's in there. So here, for example, we can see the title, right? All products, books to scrape, which is what we're seeing here. Yeah, we have the creation date, for example, and some other information. But like this is just like a short view. The most important thing for us is the body. And in the body, we can see we have a header, division, and so on. And maybe you've already noticed, as I'm moving along here, there's stuff happening on the left side as well. So whenever I hover over something, it will get highlighted on the left side. So you can move along here to find out which element is which is one possibility. But what I think most of the time makes way more sense is, or is quicker, is to click on this little button here. I can actually, let me try to zoom in a bit more. Yeah, cool. You can click on this button and then move around on the left side, and you can hover over all these things. And when you found what you want, let's say you want to get the title, you can see, first of all, on the right side that it's highlighted. But if you click on it, it stays there. So now you know this is the element that I'm looking for, which is an A element, a link, which is part of an H3, which again is part of this article. And yeah, this is really good to understand for what we will be doing. And also maybe you can see a bit of the flock of geese structure here. Yeah. Any questions so far?
I think it might be fine so far, even though
Okay.
Jonas is typing something.
All right, let's see.
You get some good feedback there, Felix. Very valuable.
Nice. Perfect. We're going in the right direction.
Some backing here. That's great. Thanks.
Cool. Nice. Yeah. Then again, little reminder on the syntax. And also, yeah, I forgot to mention this. Attributes are a way to attach additional information. So an attribute could, for example, change how the element will look on the website, or be useful to group elements, or like a lot of things. Attributes can do a lot of things, but what they mainly do is they attach some kind of additional information. Which attributes do we see most often? It's classes and IDs. So a class is more about how the element will look, and IDs are actually like very special, because every element on a certain website the IDs are always unique. So if you have an element with the ID promotions left, there's no other element on this website with the same ID. So as we're web scraping, we are basically identifying elements, or we're looking for a way to identify either the element or a group of elements that we're looking for. So if we're looking for a specific element and it has an ID, it's a very, very good and solid way of identifying it. Little warning, there are some websites who use non-stable IDs. So maybe websites that don't like to be scraped, they make it a bit more difficult for you, and they use IDs that change every time you load the website or you log in. But they're usually relatively easy to identify, because the ID wouldn't be something like promotions left, that makes sense, but more of a random combination of letters and numbers, for example. Yeah, so classes and IDs are the attributes we really use most often. We see most often and also use most often. Yeah, so classes, for example, they apply CSS styles to element. CSS styles, like CSS is basically just a whole language of identifying changing styles of elements or identifying them. We also have other workshops that we offer, for example, the web development sprint, which focuses more on CSS styles, or the JavaScript basics one, which focuses more on JavaScript, which is a lot about interactive elements. And yeah, and classes and IDs make it easy to find elements programmatically, which we will be looking at today. All right, so here we have a website. It looks all good, right? It's a LinkedIn website. If we have a look at the HTML, we can see it's super messy, right? I showed you that HTML has like this flock-like structure, which is generally true if it's written in an orderly way. So for HTML to work, it doesn't need to be with all these indentations and things. They're more a good style and make it better to understand the code. Even if you have created this website and you know how everything works here, even though it's messy, if someone new tries to change something about it, they first really have to get in and understand how it works. But yeah, this HTML in the wild can be very messy, and it's not always as easy to understand as it is in the examples. The real-life websites are a mess, and they can be thought of as a soup of elements. Yeah, just as we have like different kind of vegetables in here, we have different kinds of elements, and they can be mixed around and part of each other, and so on. And yeah, all programming languages have libraries for parsing HTML. We will be using Python, as mentioned. Python is a language that's very beginner-friendly. It's a high-level language, so it does a lot of stuff for us, which is super nice because we don't have to tell the language every detail as in some other languages, and it's used a lot in the data field. So Python is used a lot when working with data. We will be using Beautiful Soup, right? This refers to the soup that HTML can be. You didn't write that awful page, you just want to get the data out of it. And Beautiful Soup makes it easy, or at least easier. So it's a very useful tool. And yeah. All right, let's give it a spin. Let's have a look at it. And yeah. So first of all, this is a Jupyter notebook. I will zoom in a little bit. Yeah, maybe even one more. Cool. In a Jupyter notebook, as I told you before, we have a combination of text and code, which is super nice because we can just document what we're doing. It's good when we want to share our code with others, when we want to collaborate with others, or if we just revisit our code. I've like revisited my code that I've done like 2-3 months ago at some point, and I had no idea what was going on because I didn't comment it. We can change anything here, and we can save it either by clicking run, by clicking this button, or by using the shortcut Shift Enter. Yeah, and now it's saved. The same goes for code cells, but when we do Shift Enter or click run, it actually runs the code, right? So here it only changes the text, and here it runs the code. We will have a look at what these cells mean in a bit. Maybe let's first have a look at at Python itself, at basics of Python, because I think probably a lot of you have never coded, and maybe some of you have coded a bit. So either it's something new or like a refresher. In Python, we have integers. Integers are full numbers. German, very direct translation. So they're I'm missing the word in English, but they're not floating point numbers, right? So they're complete numbers. So if I have a 1 here, it's an integer. And another nice thing about Jupyter notebooks is whatever we put in here, if it's printable, it will print it automatically. General in Python, for anything to show, we need to print it, right? We see it's exactly the same in the Jupyter notebook, but really remember, because we will be doing it this way, remember that when you're using Python on its own, you always need to print. We can also, we can have mathematical operations, and we have floating point numbers, so we can also do this. In Python, this would be an integer, and this is a floating point number, so they're not the same type of data. So when I type some text here and I run the cell, you see that I get an error. That's because in Python, whenever we just write something out, it supposes that it's a variable name. It's a variable that has like some content. So when we want to have text in Python, we need to create a string, and strings are indicated by quotation marks. It can be either the double marks that I'm using. It can also be single marks. It's the same to the program as long as you use them consistently. And we can also save anything that we have here. We can save it. So for example, we can save hello to greeting. And then when we use greeting here, it's hello, right? So variables in Python can be just thought of as placeholders, basically. Yeah, cool. We can also do something to our variables, right? We can save them, but we can also do something. So for example, we can set a variable age, which is 34, and we can say age plus 1, right? Just as before, 35. What we can also do is we can change the variable age itself. So we can say the variable age, which is 34, right, should be 4 years older. And then when we print age again, we get 38. Here, something really important for when you will be working with the notebook later. The notebook does not care in which order the cells are here. It just cares in which order you run them. So for example, if I run this again, and then I see age, now it's 42, right? I run it again, it's 46. But if I run this cell again, age becomes 34 again. So it's really important when you change something in the cell that you keep this in mind. And also if you run into error messages later, a really good way of quickly trying to solve it, this can often be the case, is just rerunning the notebook by clicking this button and then restart and run all cells. Yeah. Okay, so this, yeah, just a little intro to Python variables. Let's maybe delete that. Okay, now let's have a look at the code that we actually have here. You can see here we have two imports. So we're importing requests, which is a library as well. Requests, as you can infer from the name, is made for making requests. So I've showed you an image how our browser requests data from a server, and it sends back an HTML website if we pass a URL here. This is in Python, we use request for this. And then from the BS4 library, we import the function beautiful soup. And so we can run the cell. And once we run it, it gets executed. And now we can have a look at what we're doing here. So first, we're defining a URL. This URL actually is just the URL of our website that we're trying to scrape, right? It's exactly the same thing. Then we're passing that URL, which is the string, to the get function of the requests library. This can, yeah, it can be a bit confusing. You don't need to get every step, but it's good to have an overview. And then we save it as the variable response. And this variable that comes out has a bunch of properties. One of the properties is content. And the content property actually contains the HTML of the website. We save it to the variable HTML. And then we use that variable to pass it to the beautiful soup function as the first argument. And as the second argument, we pass it the information, hey, you're dealing with HTML here, so please treat it as HTML. I think beautiful soup works with like 1 or 2 other languages, I think XML as well. Yeah, so it's important to let it know that it's dealing with HTML. And we can run it. And now our last variable that we create is scrape, right? So we can print it to get an idea what we have there. Scrape. Okay, so we can see this looks like HTML, right? It's actually, it's an HTML-like element. It's a beautiful soup element, but it's basically HTML. And yeah, as you can see, as it is, it does not give us the information right away that we want. But we have the information, we have the HTML in here now. So what we can actually do is, for example, there's different things we can do with it. We can use the find method. If we do find and then we pass a string with a or any other tag, what it will do is it will give us the very first of whatever element we passed here that it finds on the website. So this is the element that prints books to scrape on the website. And if we go to the website, we can see here that is this link. So this is the very first link that it encounters. So this is the one that it will give us. Yeah. We can also, with this, it's called a soup object. We are using the function beautiful soup, and we're creating a soup object, which we call scraped. The same way as we can do find a, we can use the property a of scraped, which gives us exactly the same, right? To find, we will soon see that we can be a bit more specific. But if we just want to look for the first element, a, for example, we can do it this way. Yeah. So now we have this element, but if we actually want to have the text of it, what we can do is we can take the text property of that element. And this way we just get the text. Yeah. All right. We can do, we've mentioned a title element before. Let's have a look at the head. We can see here we have the title, right? So let's have a look how we can get the title. Scraped again is the whole HTML that we have, and we could just do title, right? Because it's a unique thing. When we have title, again, if we just want the text, which usually we want, and when web scraping, we're usually not interested in the whole elements, but rather the text. Yeah, we get this. So we can see it's kind of the text, but it looks a bit weird. Does anyone have an idea what this might be? All right. Parentheses. Not completely. Yes, new line. So this character is called an escape character because whatever comes afterwards does not count as itself. So this character is an escape character before the n. And what it actually does is it makes whatever comes afterwards goes to a new line. How do you know? Yes.
Yeah,
So there's
a question. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now I was looking at the chat. So yes, you can find the documentation of Beautiful Soup. I mean, you can just Google Beautiful Soup documentation. We will also have a look at it later, very briefly together, but I will show you where to find it. But yeah, by basic Googling, you can find it. And actually for any library, or at least like the bigger libraries, you can find the documentation where you can find everything. And yeah, it's up to you. You can, like by Googling, usually you find answers to specific questions about libraries very well. I think the documentations are good if you want to get a general overview, or if by Googling you can't find it. I Google more than I look at documentations, but this is, yeah, it's personal preference and whatever works best for you. Okay, so we have this, and we can see it's a bit messy. So there's a nice function. This is a function that's built into Python. So whenever you're using Python, you have access to it. You can use the strip function. And what strip does, it just takes out all new line characters and all spaces right at the beginning of a string and at the end of the string, right? So once it reaches anything else but a space or a new line, it will stop. And this is the default how strip works. We could also tell it to look for different things. So we could say just take out a's from the beginning and end of the string. But as this neither starts nor ends with an a, yeah, it doesn't do anything, right?
There's one more question in the chat, Felix. How do you know which command to use? Oh no, actually, it was this question before. I don't know. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Sorry
to
to disturb.
It popped up as a new.
Yeah, it just popped up, right?
So, yeah.
Okay, all right. Sorry to
Cool.
disturb that.
All good. Cool. So now we have the title of the website, and if we want to use it further, we need to do something, right? We can't leave it as it is. We can save it to a variable. So we can, for example, call it title. And yeah, now we have saved it as a variable, and we can actually print title, and we get it. Cool. All right, let's go a bit on in the presentation. Okay, and again, if you have any questions, just ask them in the chat or unmute yourself. Okay, this is the piece of code we went over already, and yeah, this is also what we did right now. So nothing new in here, I think. Yeah. Cool. So we've talked about the tree and how it is important to understand how the elements are connected to each other. So if we want to locate something, let's maybe go to the website. Let's say we want to locate the title. We can just do it this way, right? We click on this element here, then click on whatever we want to locate, and we can see it's it's a link, which is part of an H3, which is part of an article, and so on. So what we can, for example, do, if we can find the article, we have everything else from there. Yeah, that's part of it in the article as well. So first we will try to get one element, right? So we will look for the title in one element, but then in the end we want to have it for all the objects, right? So it's good to get objects that contain everything that we want, and this article actually contains everything that we want on the left side, right? Because in the end we want the title and the price. Okay. All right, yeah. Then let's maybe go back. Okay, so we have the title now. Again, remember, scraped is our full HTML. And yeah, there we go. All right, thank you for participating. And yeah, you can still, we will send you the login data, and you can have a look. There's also a video recording of it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, right, correct. Cool. I think, Jonas, afterwards you will receive the link actually to just watch the video again. So thanks so much for joining.
All right. So yeah, what we can do, as we can see here, we have an article, right? So something that we could check is just to see what happens if we get all the articles, right? So to get all of whatever, we, instead of using find, we use find all, and we can do article, right? So let's run it, and we can see we get something. It's a bit hard to figure out what it is. It's HTML. What we can do, if you see, there's the starting is a square bracket, and square brackets in Python indicate a list. And when we have a list, we can check the length of the list, and the length of the list is just how many objects or elements do we have in it, and we get 20. And if we look at the website, we have the results 1 to 20, so we have 20 books here. So we can be confident that that the articles are actually what we're looking for. So again, we can save this list. Maybe let's call it articles. And the naming is completely arbitrary, right? I could also call it X or C or whatever, but it's always a good idea to name it in a way that makes sense, so you can understand it when you have a look at it again. Now we have this list, and we want to do something for each of the elements in the lists. And in Python, we do it with a for loop. So we can do for article in articles. And here again, this is arbitrary, but in the same way, it makes sense to call it in a way that makes sense for us. So we need to get the information in the article, right? Let's have a look at how it's structured, and this is why you need to understand the tree. Here we have the element with the title, and which is part of an H3 of the article. So from the article, we can go to H3 and then to that A, and we should get the element. And as before, we can just do it this way, right? And we can actually chain it. We can put as many of these together as we want, and it will work. So what we can do to actually check what we're getting is we can print it. Yeah, so we're getting the whole thing, right? And we don't want the whole thing. We want the text only. So we can just print the text. Oh. Okay, cool. So this is what we want, right? So now we get all the titles. And we could actually, to be a bit cleaner, this is good practice. We could just call the title and then print the title. It does exactly the same, but it's cleaner and yeah, it's easier to understand. Okay, cool. Any questions so far? All right, then let's just move on.
I think it looks fine.
Yeah. Cool. All right, climbing the tree. Yes, that's what we just did. Yeah. Attributes. Okay, cool. Yeah, something that we could have a look at. So, for example, in this article, you can, or in the titles, you can see there's a ... right? So it's not the full title that's displayed. And if we have a look at the title, we can see this is the text that gets displayed, right? The one in between the open and the closing tag. But we can see that there's an attribute title, which contains the full title. So what we can do instead is, instead of getting the text here, we can indicate this way that we want an attribute which is called title, right? So we use square brackets and then a string with the name of the attribute that we're using to indicate this. And yeah, and now we get the full titles, which is obviously better for us. All right. Yeah, the repeating blocks, I think we already went over it briefly, right? That's what we do with when we're looking for all the articles and then we loop over them. We're doing the same. Like, first of all, we're getting all the different blocks, right? The 20 articles that we got. And then we're doing the same thing on each block. And that's why if you want to do the same thing for multiple elements that are similar, it's always good to find out what the overarching elements are, right? So like this would be the article that we used. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we used find all. Yeah. For find all, for example, we can add something else, right? Or for find as well. So we could also do scraped.article, right? But if we use find or find all, we can look more specifically. For example, we could look for articles, but only for articles that have the class product one. And in this case, maybe you've spotted it, there's an underscore here. This is because the word class has a very specific meaning to Python. And that's why we put an underscore, so Python knows it's not a Python class, but it's just an attribute. Yeah, but in this case, in our case, all articles have the same class, so it doesn't really, yeah, doesn't really make a difference. All right. Yeah, sometimes an element has a unique trait. So for example, in our case, on this website, all the title links, they have a title attribute. So we could also do, if we just want all the title, all the title links, we can just do find all links which have a title attribute. So title equals true just means that they have a title attribute with some kind of value. So it's not, it's not a specific value necessarily. All right. Okay, before this, let's have a look at the prices. So we got the articles, right? Also a little tip on notebooks. Here we have a relatively long output. If you don't want to see it, you can just double click here. And yeah, so it's good to keep your notebook tidy. So what we did for the articles, let's do this for prices. Let's maybe comment it here. Doing the same for prices. Cool. Again, to understand where the prices are, we go back here, right? This is always where we find the information, how to locate it. We can, again, sorry, I did maybe a bit fast. So we can use this button and go, this is the price. And we can see that it's here, right? And it has the class price color. So price color seems very specific. We can assume, or at least try, if maybe only the prices have this specific class. If not, we can try something, more complicated, but it might be worth a shot to try this out. So we know it's a P element with the class price color. So again, we start with scraped, right? We start with the full HTML, and we can do find all. So we do find all P elements, which also have the attribute class. And here you can see that it turns green if I just leave it as it is. And this is again because it has a specific meaning to Python. And we want the class price color. Okay. Let's see what comes. Nice. Looks good, right? We seem to be getting the prices. Just to double check, we should expect 20. So let's check the length. It's 20, right? So we can assume it's all good. And we could just save it to the variable prices, so we can treat it more easily from here on, right? So now we have prices, and again, as we did before, we can use a for loop. So we can say for price in prices. And now what do we want to do? We can just print price as a first step to see again. I mean, we saw it, but forgot the print statement. So we can print them out again. And what we actually want is only the text, right? So again, we can do price.text. And now what we have a string that starts with a pound sign and then contains some numbers and a dot and some other numbers. But this is not a number, at least not to Python. So the very first step that we need to do is we need to get rid of this sign, right? So what we can do, maybe you remember this method, is we can use the strip method, but instead of using the default version, we tell it to strip all pound signs, right? Let's run it again to see where we are. Okay, so now it looks all good, but if we check the type of the variable we have here, and this you can just do by type and then put whatever you want to check the type of in brackets. We can see that it's string, and we can calculate it in string with strings. So usually, we don't want strings for numbers. So what we can do, we can just convert it to a float, and it looks the same to us, but now we can actually use it later, right? Because most of the time you actually want to do something else with it than just to store it. And if you just want to store it, it also works the same, right? Cool. So let's maybe have a look at lists and dictionaries in Python, because in the end, what we actually want is one list that consists of multiple dictionaries, and each dictionary should contain the information of one book. So the title and the price of each book. We've seen lists already before. So lists are indicated by square brackets, and we can put a bunch of numbers in here. Yeah, we could also put strings in there. Yeah, we can mix a list, we can mix everything. So this would be a list. And we also have dictionaries, which we did not see yet, I think. So for example, we can have a dictionary that contains the information of a student. So yeah, I'm still new to Mac. I have this computer for a week now, so I'm not very familiar with the shortcuts yet. Still takes me a bit of thinking. We can, for example, have a name, Maria, and we have an age, which is 32. Yeah. So now we have this student dictionary, and the way we access dictionaries, we can, for example, shortcut. If we do this, if we index with square brackets and a string containing the key, so this is a key, this is a value, this is a key, this is a value, so those are the terms for it, we actually get printed the value that belongs to the key. Yeah, so this is a little introduction on dictionaries. And yeah, so now our goal is to get, let's maybe write this down. Our goal is to have one list consisting of 20 dictionaries, which each are a book, or each info on one book. Okay, so this is where we bring it together, what we have done so far. So what we can do again, we can take our articles, right? I will just copy it here. It's saved in the notebook, so it doesn't matter for the code, but for us, it's good to understand it. There we go. Okay. So for each article in article, we will be doing something, and we want to save it to a list, right? So how could we book info? We can call our list, and in Python we can actually create an empty list. So what we will be doing here is we will be creating an empty list, and then we will go through each of the articles and do something to each of the articles, and then in the end we will feed the information into this list. And yeah, you actually do this a lot in coding. Yeah, so it's a very common thing. And what we need is the title, and we need the price for each book, right? And actually we have most of the information that we need for this, we already have, right? Because we got the titles here. So this would be the title. We can insert it here. So the title would be to go from the article to the h3 to the A element with the attribute title. And for the prices, we can also do this, the find all. In this case, I don't think we really need the find all even. So for the price, we can just take the article that we have, right? The article is one element. Again, maybe let me show. So this would be one article, right? So we're in this element now. And then in that article, we also went to the, where did we go again? Let's have a look at the price. Okay, so we can look for the paragraph with class price color, for example. Article.find paragraph class equals price color, and now we get the price, right, as we got here. and we still need to convert it. And this again, if in coding, like if we already did something, we can just take the information from there. So now we would have like the basic element, and we can update it. So first we set a variable price, and then here we reset it, right? So we take the text, we take this out, and we make a float of it. And what we can actually do, we can print now to first check if what we wanted to do happened. So we can print the title and the price. And in the print statement, as you can see here, you could print multiple things as long as you separate them by a comma. And yeah, we can see we get the titles, we get the prices. So it seems all good. But remember that we wanted a list, which is this list book info, consisting of 20 dictionaries, each containing this and this and this information and so on. So what we actually need is a dictionary. So we can start by creating one. Makes sense, right? So we can create a dictionary. And if you remember that dictionary works in key value pairs. So as the key, we could take the title and we separate them by, what's it called, colon? I'm not sure. We take the title and then we can take the price as the value, right? So this happens 20 times and each time this would be the result. And now we still have to find a way of getting this each time into the list. And there's actually a built-in function in Python to do this. So we can call the list bookinfo.append. And append is a function that appends whatever we put in the brackets to the list that we call append on. So each time we go through the for loop, we will append the result to the list book info. And to check this, we can just print book info and see how it looks. And yeah, we can see we have a list, right? We can see this because there's a square bracket, and we can see that it consists of dictionaries. We can assume that it's 20, but if we want to be really sure, we can also check the length of it. And yeah, we can see that it has 20 elements. Yeah. And this was our goal output, right? And now, as a next step, this will not be part of the workshop. As a next step, now you have some kind of data that you can, for example, convert to a CSV file, which you can then work on in Excel, for example, or yeah, do anything else with it. Any questions? Yeah, can't see any in the chat. All right.
I think we're good to go, yeah.
Cool. Then let's level up. So there's CSS selectors. So the web has a language for selecting elements. For selecting HTML elements. All browsers and parsers speak it, right? Makes sense because browsers are made to go through HTML. There's a bunch of them. We will not go over all of them. But yeah, for example, if you want to look for a class, it can be .class, like dot and then the name of the class. If you want to look for something with two specific classes, you can do it this way, and so on. If you want to have a look, if you want to search for an ID, you can use the hash, and so on. Yeah, and you can see a bunch more here. If you're interested in it, you can go over it afterwards. Yeah, and the way we use selectors when we work with a beautiful soup object, we use select instead of find or find all. And in this case, we're just looking for the starting tag. So we're looking for a division. In this case, as indicated by the dot, we're looking for a class. And here, as indicated by the hash, we're looking for an ID. Yeah, but yeah, I think it's really cool. Like maybe go over the list and have a look at it, because the way you can combine them and so on, like there's a lot of possibilities. So this is just a different way of doing what we did with find and find all. And yeah. All right. Yeah, as you saw in the list, we can also combine selectors. yeah, I don't think it's super important for you for now. I think it's a bit advanced maybe. But if you want to have a look at it, maybe if you start your own project and it gets useful, you can just have a look and yeah, see this. Cool. The documentation, as mentioned before, let's just have a brief look at the Beautiful Soup documentation. You can just find it by Beautiful Soup documentation. And then, yeah, I think Crummy is, yeah, you can see it here. Let me see how it looks. Okay, I will zoom in a bit. Looks a bit hard to see. Yeah, so this is the documentation. See, they did not really care about design whatsoever. But there's good information in here. General rule, quick start, or if you find anything similar on the documentation, this is usually a good way to start and to get an impression of what the library does and what are like the basic commands or the most common commands. And here navigating the tree in Beautiful Soup is also super helpful, because this is about, yeah, how you move along the different elements and the structure. Yeah, but yeah, we will not go deep into it together, but this is a really good place to get some information on Beautiful Soup. All right. Yeah, now it's your turn. I will be here for a bit more. I think like half an hour or a bit more if you have any questions. This link, I will actually send you a different link where you can join. 1 sec. Yes, I will post it to the chat. So where do I have it? All right. Okay. This is the link, and I will also send you the token. I think you have to enter the token as well. Yes, so you can go to this link, and then you can use this token to verify yourself. You will be able to see the slides of this presentation. There's also a video recording. I think you can also see it. There's takeaways, which is super nice. You can have a look at the basics of Python. Oh yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks. Yeah, and you can Beautiful Soup as well. There's a complete scraper example. I think in the task you will make a scraper as we did, slightly more advanced. So there's like a tiny next level to it, which I think is cool. Here you can have a look at the solution. I would probably not have a look at it right away. And here you can find some more info about Wagon, our courses. And yeah, I think, yes, and very importantly, thank you. Very importantly, here you can find the challenge. And there's actually this button, which, so I've used Jupyter Notebook, right? This is actually something you need to install on your computer. And so you don't have to do the whole setup, because you need to install Python and then the notebook and so on. It can take a bit of time and you can run into some problems. You can just click on this button and it will, let me actually, click on it. It will create something that's hosted on another server, so it's not hosted on your computer. It takes a little bit of time to set up, right? As you can see here, it can take like, I think 2 minutes maybe. But then you have a running Jupyter Notebook. It will look exactly the same as mine. It will have the same buttons, the same possibilities. And yeah, as I said, it takes a bit of time. Also, and yeah, thanks for the thanks. And yeah, if you're inactive for a little bit, it can happen very quickly. If, for example, you're looking up something, maybe you're looking up some functionality of Beautiful Soup. About 8 minutes it takes. If you don't do anything within that time, it will get you to this stage. So what you should do then is really not reload your browser, but click on OK. And then you click on OK, and then you can see these buttons here. Let's see if it already loaded. No. And you click on this button, I think, save to browser storage. Yes. You click on OK, and like it tells you here what the next steps are. This way you don't lose it. So if you just reload, your progress is gone. So really don't do that. Just follow the steps, and you can just continue. Yeah, and I think, yeah, that's it. Thank you all very much for
Maybe
your
Felix,
attention.
if it's cool with you, do you also want to maybe put your email address or somewhere where people could reach you if they have a specific question? Because like I said before, this was all new to me as well.
Yes,
so if
for
maybe
sure.
someone tries to work on this a bit later, perfect, you put it there. So you can also text Felix, you can text me. Like we said, you can watch the recording again. It will normally be sent to your email address if you registered for the webinar. And yeah, like I said, if you have any questions, any requests, any feedback, any ideas of content that you guys would really like to see here, we'd be super happy, especially also with Felix. If it's something in tech, something that Le Wagon also can provide, we'd be happy to do that. So just reach out to us and stay in touch. And thank you so much, Felix, for the time also that you took today, that you went through all of this. Super, super interesting. So thank you very much. And yeah, if no one else has a question, then I would say, yeah, we can end this here. And if anyone wants to reach out to you or to me later, then you're very welcome to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think maybe let's wait one more minute to see if people still want to say something or have another question. Otherwise, yeah. Since when are you doing all this, Felix? Are you doing this daily?
So I've done the bootcamp last year, but before that, I think for 2 years, from time to time, I would code a bit. And then since I did the bootcamp, in the last month or so, I focused more on my new job. I didn't do that much coding, but I also had a little project that I did. And yeah, what I really found out that I like is automation. So I use something like web scraping, but it interacts with the websites. So you can fill out forms, for example, or interact with it. It's called Selenium. It's a library as well.
Okay.
So in addition to just scraping, it also clicks on things and writes things, and yeah.
Okay, interesting. Cool. Great. Well, then I would say, guys, let's end this here. You can always reach out to us. We'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much again, Felix. Thank you guys for being here. And we hope you liked it. Enjoy the rest of your evening and hope to see you again soon in the webinar.
Also, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.